This is going to be a tough assignment. So I'm going to attempt to clone a chili recipe that I've never tasted the chili. This is my attempt at cloning a version of Ben's chili from Ben's Chili Bowl in Washington, D.C. I watched an episode of Man vs. Food, and they were at Ben's Chili Bowl in Washington, D.C., and they had, they were talking about how famous it is, and it looked really, really good. And Adam, the host of Man vs. Food, said he could smell in the dry season, and he picked up a smell of curry. So using that and then watching that video, because the chili starts out with just a dry mix. So looking at that dry mix, I could kind of get an idea what was in it. It's definitely going to have chili powder in it. It seemed to have a lot of dehydrated dried onion flakes, which is not uncommon. A lot of people like using the dehydrated onion because it does have a different flavor than fresh onion. So that could be it. So I'm going to attempt this, and what I've got here, we're going to start with, since how everything is dry, because they literally just took this dry mix and poured it into the pot with the ground beef with some water, and then cooked it like that. So I'll show that after I mix up the dry ingredients. So what we have here is a teaspoon of garlic powder, a tablespoon of dehydrated onions, 2 tablespoons of beef bouillon. So it didn't seem like they used beef broth, so I would assume that they would want some beef flavor. So I'm going to add some of the beef bouillon, and then 2 tablespoons of chili powder. This is really good. This is a New Mexico chili powder. And then we have a half a teaspoon of curry powder. And then we have a teaspoon of sea salt, regular sea salt, not kosher salt. 1/2 of a teaspoon of cumin. And I don't have it on the plate here, but it calls for 1 bay leaf, so I'll put 1 bay leaf into the pot when I get the liquid in there. And then 2 tablespoons of Masa Harina. Now, Adam said that it seemed to have like a really creamy texture, almost like a tapioca, which I would think masa is generally an ingredient that is used in a lot of chilies, because it adds kind of a nice creamy texture to it, and it adds a lot of flavor. If you can't get masa, I guess you could use corn flour, but it is totally different. As you can see here, masa is very fine, and it's not just a corn flour or corn meal. It's a corn that has been treated with lime, so it has a really unique flavor to it. But if you can't find that, just use like a real fine corn meal. Okay, so I'm going to mix this all up, and then I'm going to add it to my beef and my wet ingredients. So one of the other ingredients that was called for, where is it, is tomato paste. So I'm going to add probably a generous tablespoon of tomato paste to the ground beef and the water. And I'm going to use 2 cups of water. I can add more water if I need to, and then I can taste the spices if I need to as well. Now I did some searching to see if maybe somebody else has come up with this, a clone of their own, and I wasn't able to find one. I found somebody who claimed to have one, and it wasn't attributed to any particular person, but it did call for, that recipe did call for the masa and the tomato paste, but it called for fresh onion, chili broth. It called for sugar, and I'm not thinking sugar will be good here. And it called for browning the ground beef, but I'll show how I'm going to do the ground beef in just a few minutes, because just looking at it, you could tell that the ground beef was very fine. Like, it wasn't your typical kind of chili. It wasn't a really chunky one, and I've done that in the past, making Cincinnati style chili, because that's another chili that has very fine. The ground beef is very fine, and there's a way to get that. Okay, that looks like very similar, but I think I'm gonna need another tablespoon of chili powder. Just I can almost tell by looking at it. It doesn't have enough chili powder. So there we have three tablespoons of chili powder. Okay, let's get to making the chili. What I have here is an 80-20 ground beef, because I would think that you would want some fat with it, and a lot of that fat is actually going to be absorbed by the masa. But I'll skim it off if it seems to be too much fat. And one other reason why I want to do this with water is one person commented that she thought that they boiled the ground beef with water before they actually made the chili. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've got the ground beef there, and I've got 2 cups of water. I can add more if I need to, because this is going to simmer for a while. Okay, so I'm going to start this. Now, I just want to start by breaking up the ground beef. And this actually, you will get a really fine texture with the ground beef, because you just want to break it up and then just keep kind of stirring it around. Because I went back and looked at the video, and it seems like they put the dry mix in right at the beginning. So that's what I'm going to do. The meat is actually broken up quite well already, so I think adding the spice now while the meat hasn't cooked will really flavor the meat. So I'm going to go ahead and add the full amount of this spice mix. Right at the beginning. Yeah, that's looking very similar to how they started it on the Man vs. Food show. Actually looks like chili now. And you can smell that curry. That's even that small amount of curry really had. I mean, curry's pretty powerful. A little bit goes a long way, but this looks very similar to how they started on Man vs. Food. And then I can adjust these seasons. It's easy to start small and add than it is to take out. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, I'm going to add a bay leaf to this, and then I'll be right back. Okay, there's a bay leaf. We'll add that. And then I'm going to add, well, that's a tablespoon, or give or take a little bit more. I can add more if I need to. Oh, it's smelling good already. Yeah, I can add more tomato if I need to. They didn't seem like they added an awful lot of tomato paste to the chili. They made a huge pot and they only used one whole 6-ounce can to this big pot. So, a tablespoon might be sufficient. But like I said, I can add more if I need to. Okay, let's let this simmer for a while. Okay, sauce has been simmering for about 50 minutes and it looks like it's about the right consistency. I'm actually gonna let this cool down and then refrigerate it overnight and have it tomorrow night for dinner. So I would expect it to thicken up a little bit more, but it looks really good. It's good color. This is perfect. This is kind of sauce that I like for hot dogs. So this is going to go on the hot dog with some chopped onions, some mustard. This should be good. Let's give it a taste. Make sure that it tastes good. It's really good. Oh, that's really good. Really, really good. Now, I'm not going to add any salt. I mean, your first thought might be to add some more salt, but you got to remember, because this is going to be served on top of a hot dog with mustard that already have salt as well, and that's gonna. It's like the Texas hot wieners. This is just a component of the overall chili dog, and I guess you could add some shredded cheddar cheese to it, but I'm gonna be a purist and just do it with the chili, onion, and the mustard with the hot dog. So we'll see how this turns out tomorrow. Well, here's the tasting. Seems like from watching the videos that I've seen of Ben's Chili Bowl, they just use like, you know, the classic yellow mustard. So let's add the yellow mustard and some chopped fresh onions. And some sauce. They seem very generous with the sauce. So I was very generous with the sauce. Let's just see what that tastes like. Sorry, I just had to take a picture of that. Okay, let's get a napkin ready because this looks like it's going to be messy. Smells really good. Looks like it has the right texture. I toasted the buns and I grilled the hot dogs. These are Nathan's all beef. So I grilled the Nathan's hot dogs and then I toasted the buns on the grill. So let's give it a try. Really good. I can't say if this is the original Ben's Chili Bowl chili dog sauce, but boy, this is a good one. It's very good. Okay, that's it. Ben's Chili Bowl chili dog.